and she just sets the bar right here. So I just wanted to be in the same stadium with her. So, but Olga, I am really, obviously circumstances are what they are, but I am so looking forward to this because, to be honest, I know of your organization, but I don't know of you. So, and I feel like I'm not the only person in this room. So tell us a little bit about, your journey to organizing and, what you're doing now as an organizer.
Well, I'm just as sad as everybody that Alicia is not here, but hopefully he's going to join us. And so I hope I don't disappoint. As far as like the expectation. No. I'm always in good company. Just let me know. Okay? Always in good company. My path started through my mom. Before there was Instagram, there was Maricia Flores. She was the influencer in my journey, as people say. And my mom, in our household, thank you. In our household, there was 10 kids and one single mother.
10?
10.
Walk me through that journey. Where are you in the ranking?
I am number 7.
I love that you had to count.
Yeah. I'm number 7, and I'm the baby of the girls. And our organizing started out of, no shocker, housing rights and being able to stay in your home. In Los Angeles, you had this mega school that was being built. LA University decided, let's build these mega schools and they'll come. But let's displace all the people that live in the neighborhood so they continue to get bussed out. So they wanted to build these beautiful schools, just not for the kids in the neighborhoods there. And so my mom, who was illiterate, indigenous from Mexico, from Nayarit, Mexico, decided there's no fucking way I can afford going somewhere else. Oh, by the way, I'm a labor organizer. So I don't filter myself when I'm not in front of you, so I'm not going to start now. So my mom and all of our crew, our clan of family, got into organizing to try and keep a roof over our heads. At that time, we didn't know why it was. We were going all these picket lines. And then subsequently, my mom started supporting the union boycotts, the great boycotts in Los Angeles. So our summers were spent in front of the Safeway markets and Vons supermarkets. And I was always tired. Who is this damn Caesar that never shows up? I want to talk to him. And I was only like 8, 7 years old, but I was really fucking angry at Caesar because thanks to him telling my mom, hold it down. I didn't have a damn summer like other kids. I had to be on those hot weather summers in LA in front of picket lines. And later on, finally, I hated what my mom did. And I always said I would never do the same thing she did. And if you want to hear God laugh, you got to tell him what your plans are. So I ended up organizing in labor.
Wow. So when did that light bulb hit where you're like, this is what I'm going to be doing?
We grew up in Los Angeles, and one of the, our backyard was the beautiful skyline of LA, the Bonaventure Hotel, Crown Hill, all of those beautiful blocks. But you saw wealth, and then there was reeking poverty. You couldn't ignore it. It's like my reality right now.
Exactly.
The Tenderloin. The Tenderloin is where our offices are at, and City Hall is just around the block, and Twitter South of Market is just a few blocks away. So it's the same cruel reality that we grew up with. It wasn't a light bulb. It was really going to school and finding out, studying, having Chicano studies. Back then it was called Chicano studies. And I have to tell you, I identified with a lot of the causes and movements, and I didn't want to hear it from my mom. Of all things, right? I did not want to hear it from her because she just wanted free labor. And for me to give up another weekend or another summer. So I never understood why my mom was so determined in having us there. But it was home. And when you're an Indigenous woman, orphaned, have no family, my mom, even up until when she died 3 years ago, she always considered the United States as her adoptive mother, because she actually had a recognition. She had an ID that said Mauricia Flores Miranda. She had a place she called home. She was acknowledged, even though she was orphaned and indigenous and dark brown skin. She was recognized, at least in this country. She got to see what she never got to do in her own life in Mexico, which was being able to sit at a table without eating food scraps. She got to fill her children's bellies with a whole meal, with the sweat of her brow.
You know, it's so amazing. Like, you know, obviously, as we prepare, we research and we prepare questions. And initially, the question I'm going to ask is, you know, what did your mom think when you said you were going to be an organizer? And we presumed that most mothers would be like, doctor, lawyer, teacher, something else. That's going to be hard work. But I have a feeling your mom had a very different reaction. So when you came out and said, okay, you've been training me since first grade, I'm going to do it. What was her reaction? Like, how did your family react, since all of you have been doing it?
Most of my brothers and sisters are not politically involved. My mom burned them out. There are some of my brothers and sisters still remain like, let's not talk about politics. You know, They'll vote and they will be active, but ask them to walk a precinct or anything, they will not do. They will tell you, we've done our share. We paid our dues already. But when it came to me, my mom was very worried, because in the neighborhoods you grow up in LA, there's a certain time in your teenage life that you're gonna go to the left or you're gonna go to the right. And then sometimes you're just gonna regress. And as a parent of 10 kids, by the time my mom got to me, she had already been, in Spanish, we say curtido. Curtido is is it sauerkraut? You know, by the time my mom got to number 7, she had already been and seen it all, right? Teenage pregnancy, with my sisters, being able to, you know, address the issues of whether we were going to have a roof over our heads. And I am not ashamed to say what we had to do as a single mom. And our experiences kind of made us better people, who we are now and what we contribute. Because as parents, what we want is to make sure that our kids are fulfilled. For myself, my path was, I knew this is something that I was involved student organizing, and labor was the only place that I found was fitting for me, because it served two things. One, I was savvy enough to help other workers understand what their rights were and get them to sign a union card. But the other part was I could curse and I was being paid for it, right? And there is no other industry that you can do the same thing and still tell your mom, like, I'll be able to put a roof over my head. I'll be able to feed myself and I'll be all right. And I kind of found my path. Water finds itself where it needs to be. And that was that, like, for Indigenous families, it's one of those things that stays with us. We're raised with that. You'll be where you need to be. If in that precise moment, it's not what your mom wanted or your dad wanted, it's where you needed to be. So my mom didn't clamor about it. Would she have wanted a doctor? Absolutely. Would she have wanted an attorney? Absolutely. But I got 3 law firms that work for us, so we're good. So, if ever in trouble.
Oh, wow, that was hilarious. So I want to take you back. You talked about student organizing in college, and obviously you've come a long way. You've done a lot. Do you miss those days, the early days?
Yes, I miss those days.
Yeah,
but they were a lot more rougher. And
yeah,
you can't take anything for granted. And I think when you've had to listen to a sermon at a church that you are not a parishioner of, but you're sitting in that sermon to hear it to get a box of food, that's real, right? And it shows you gratitude, but also humility in understanding that a worker at Amazon, that a worker, a hotel worker at a non-union hotel, or a custodian that right now is cleaning somebody's offices or store or what have you, deserves not to have to listen to that sermon, but be able to cash a check that they can be able to provide for their families with dignity. As a single mom, non-English speaking, indigenous, and orphan, and a woman, like my mom had all these, she would say, I'm cursed 3 ways in Mexico. You are a woman, you are indigenous, and you are orphaned. So no one will speak up for you. There's nowhere that you can turn for help. And so that as an identity, you don't exist. So my mom kept reminding us of why it was always important to contribute. You are what you contribute. And if you don't, then you can't complain, right? So the 3 words that I'm sure is familiar in all of your households, figure it out, is very framed on our front door. Yeah. Figure it out. We're gonna get through this. But it felt easier back then, but we can't take anything for granted. It's scary right now what we're seeing erode every damn day as women. And in the pandemic, we fucking rolled back. And if you are an immigrant, if you are non-English speaking, you are a woman, it got worse for us, not better. Some assholes became bigger billionaires, but for us women, it got worse. And some have abandoned the industries altogether. So there's a lot of recovery.
Indeed. I am loving this conversation. The questions are not, we're freestyling tonight. So I'm dare I say awed a little bit, because what your mother was talking about with you all, we now talk about as sectionality. You know, Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term, and you are now working on behalf of and with people who have the same identities as your mom. Tell us a bit about the workers that you are working with, or what are you touched a little bit on the pandemic, but what is happening for them now?
The reality is that I have 3,000 members. I have about 5,000 members, but during the pandemic, 3,000 of them saw themselves shut out of a job. And right now, you know, when you go out and look at any skyline, whether it's here, whether it's in Mexico, whether it's in Guatemala or Syria, those skylines, the little twinkling lights, I always tell people, look up. There's workers up there and they're working the night shift. And those are my members who I proudly represent, but I need you to understand they're not invisible. Those are men and women in those twinkling lights that are trying to provide for their families with dignity. And when you think of the pandemic, I need you guys to understand that although you see the happy hours, very happy, office workers starting to kind of trickle in and trickle out of buildings, they're not calling our people back yet to work. And I have a lot of single moms and women that are contributing to their households and trying to stay afloat, just trying to stay afloat, that have not been called to work yet. And that's a real painful reality, because you have to decide right now, I want to go back to work, but I'm probably going to be paying a second rent or a second mortgage for somebody to take care of my kids at night, right? And so for any one of us, respective of any one of your industries, I need you to understand that sometimes people don't pay attention to these very small details. Who was there before you entered that office or that conference room or that beautiful meeting room? And I always remind folks, it's really important that you always make eye contact with the custodians in your offices, in your buildings. How's their day going? Because you never know how just that mere acknowledgement can really change the course of somebody's day, somebody's week. But our struggles are very same. It's just although they're parallel, some of us, and my members specifically, and a lot of labor unions and their members, we're having a hard time with the reopening because it's opening for some. The gate is not fully wide for everybody, but they want caretakers. They want people to be able to clean up after them, but they want somebody to do the work of 2 or 3 people. And those beautiful, tall buildings don't clean themselves. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. And actually, as you were talking about inviting us to look people in the eye, it reminded me, my grandparents raised me, and, imagine they were in college, like in the 40s, but they were in Atlanta. So my grandfather always had that directive. Like, it was clear, you look everyone in the eye. Everyone is entitled to the same respect because they are each a child of God. And he would talk about, when he was in school, he worked at a golf country club. And the feeling of being unseen, like, stirred up such an anger in him, because the people he encountered missed I think his brilliance, but they missed his humanity. And so I thank you for reminding us to always look out and check in on the humanity of everyone we encounter. So, talking again about the people that you are busting your ass for, how has I'm trying to keep up with you. How has the pandemic shifted your work? I mean, you've set sort of the state of play for the workers, but how has the pandemic and all of its ramifications affected or impacted your day-to-day?
In the pandemic, we had probably about 32 members pass away of COVID. And these were protections that could have been prevented, right? But we didn't legislate them in a timely fashion. And it wasn't just my industry. It was across every industry, whether you were going to the supermarket, whether you were going to the hospital. It wasn't just immune. And I always told during the 2 years, we were negotiating a contract. So our janitors were still out there marching, even though there were empty buildings, even though there was nobody out there. We were having car caravans. And, people make the argument that they're progressive. People make the argument that, yes, everybody deserves a living wage. Everybody deserves a prevailing wage, but just not here, because there's certain things that, it's a small business, it's a tech company, and they're so good with everybody, right? That's the argument they always make. And to that, I always tell people, it's been 2 years and we're going, we're in the endemic phase right now. And it's not going to go away. It's just a matter of how we take care of ourselves and each other. But essential workers were given the title of essential, but not treated as such. And I need folks to really understand the term essential, because if you look it up, right, it's somebody who is taken care of, that's coveted, that is, you're a pillar. We have to make sure that you're safe. But instead, you saw a majority of people of color in essential jobs, whether it was hospitality, whether it was building services, whether it was healthcare, and supermarkets, grocery workers out there as essential workers were not being treated as such. Even by somebody standing in front of you at the supermarket and just being a total asshole in how they were treating somebody who's trying to, like, I got stuck on this. Please be patient. The fact that workers were sent out there in the name of essential, right? Without the provisions that they needed, such as, do you have good healthcare, right? 2, did you have all the safety gear, the masks, the N95s? And they were just telling you, go out there and do your job. All of the internet companies that were hiring other companies, subcontractors, and exposing those workers who were exposing, therefore, other workers as well. This pandemic and in the endemic phase, it's not over yet for workers, especially for women. And I keep saying this because it's absolutely important to understand we're not going to go back to normal. It's just not. But while people are saying, I want to go back to the office 3 times a week, my janitors couldn't do that. If you're not in that office, we don't work. I don't make enough hours to qualify for healthcare for me and my babies, right? So if you're out there 2 days out of the week, then I'm not going to have health insurance for me and my kids. And I'll have 2 less days that I won't be able to put food on the table or make my rent or pay my mortgage. And everything is relative and everything is a cross section and interconnected. But with that, we all have a responsibility with each other, not just that you are safe, but also that the folks that are there to serve can also be able to provide for them and their families with dignity. And people forget that. People really forget that. And if you walk away tonight with anything, I can tell you that there is no movement, whether it's labor movement, whether it's the women's movement, we cannot leave and be irresponsible to take care of some and not all, leave people out of the equation. And right now, that's been a painful reality that we've had to see. I have my staff, myself, I'm not just the president of a union that sits on her fucking laurels and rose petals get thrown when I walk down the street. I actually have to walk.
No drums playing.
I have to walk through a lot of piss, a lot of shit to get to my office. You know, I don't mind people smoking weed and billowing out the clouds. You know, I arrive to work a little hungrier, but at least I am capable of being able to laugh at the reality that this is where we are at as a community. Because on my block in the Tenderloin and in the Mission or anywhere, you know, in Bernal Heights, we all have a communal responsibility. And it can't just fucking serve some. It's gotta serve everybody. What happened to my sister Alicia tonight, we should all be outraged at that. And while I know this is gonna be very fucking controversial, but in the Tenderloin, the members that we represent still have their strollers go down those blocks. Their strollers walk over bumpy needles, walk over a lot of feces and urine, you know, and people don't think about that. People don't think about that. So while some say defund the police, for immigrant communities, poor communities, we want to feel safe. We do want to feel safe. Now, I grew up under the Rampart Division, and those motherfuckers would pick us up and drop us off in another neighborhood so we could get killed. And we lost a lot of friends. This isn't, you can look it up on Google. This is something that was a harsh reality. But there are assholes out there. But the reality is we want to be able to feel safe. And our organizers aren't just union folks. We're also social workers because we have to translate and go to the district to help our members advocate for their kids who probably didn't understand that their child is not a bad kid. They're autistic. They have learning disabilities, and this is why they're failing, but nobody has bothered to identify these things. So our union works in a very different way than what, you know, I know some of you guys have seen some films about labor, but all of that is bullshit. Unless it's a documentary, then those are real. The Hollywood films are a whole other story, but I can tell you that women in labor right now are being lauded. And I can tell you that we're trying to make a path that generates income so that families don't have to remain in poverty. And that's what labor unions do.
Awesome. So this actually dovetails really nicely. I think, you know, this conversation is, the title is Women Leading Movements. And to my mind, I was like, no, women make the movement. And we know historically, women have always been involved. When the call has gone out, we've stepped up to the plate, but we haven't always been out in the forefront. And I wonder what your experience has been in terms of your leadership. Did you have to like say, no, I will be up at the front because I know more than all of y'all combined? Have you found that the doors have opened? You know, what has that been like? And are you seeing more and more women kind of taking the mic and taking the lead?
You know what makes me proud is, and I was having this conversation earlier today. We went to listen to the State of the City address, and we had a conversation amongst a few other women. What did we think? And I can tell you that
Just the way you're setting this up, I already know.
You know, every time I started out at the age of 22 was the first time I ran for any position. And it was accidental because even in the labor movement, you still have some misogynistic motherfuckers that can't goddamn learn, get out of their own fucking way, right? But isn't it true, not just for the labor movement, it's in every fucking industry. And even us women can be assholes to each other too. How we carry each other, how we lift each other, and how some are so goddamn conniving, they will not say it to your face. They'll be passive aggressive and burn every fucking path you have tried to build. And this is how vicious we can be with each other. So when somebody calls me a sister, I call her a sister because that bitch has been next to me in the alleys, throwing down, fighting for a fucking contract. And I understand that that sister will stand by me and my members. And there's a lot of women that we only hear about the Dolores Huertas, right? But you've never heard of a Deborah Grabel or a Kim Taglioni, Susan Solomon, all of these incredible women, Connie Ford, right? You don't hear about a lot of these women. But I can tell you that the only way we build is not by stepping on each other. It's about lifting each other, and not like in a progressive way, like, yeah, sister, queen, sister. Don't give me your fucking likes, because I don't want your likes. I really don't. I don't want your fucking likes. I don't wake up in the morning for you to acknowledge me, because the only two people in this world and in the short life that God has given me is my son and my husband. And even then, in that order, it's my son first and then my husband. We cannot be hypocritical. I am not at the forefront of any movement. And I'm standing beside other sisters that really are in it for a good fight, not just to serve one. But I can also share that there was a Larry Mazzola and a Bob Morales and a Tim Paulson who actually embraced me more within the labor movement here in San Francisco, including Mike Casey. Those four brothers, all very different backgrounds, all different nationalities, but I can tell you, these men stood up for me when I was in my 20s and said, we have your back, whatever it is you need. And there was other sisters in the same movement that never even acknowledged me in the room. And these were sisters. So I just have to tell you, everybody's experience is different. But now everyone is embracing how we all need to be able to lift each other. But how do we do it, right? Because fucking Starbucks has put on their damn platforms. They're very progressive, right? Just don't organize them into the union. Today, every woman who takes a mic or who stands out in front, if she's a woman of color, she is looked on as an angry person. Mm-hmm. If you call somebody out, that's not right, right? You came off too aggressive, right? As a mom of a 16-year-old in a very pseudo-progressive district, every time I go to the damn school to fight and advocate for my son, it always comes off as, you need to be able to, and I'm like, really? Did your mama tell you that when she was born? Did anybody tell your mama that? And this is important because we have to check how we speak to each other. And I'm okay coming off anyway, because at the end of the day, you don't put food on my table, my members do. And the great thing about my job is I'm evaluated by our members every 3 years. So if they think I'm doing a shitty job, I just won't be there. But what I can ask all of you is be in solidarity. Be in solidarity. When you see us out in purple shirts, outside fighting a building owner or somebody that fired a woman for speaking out that she was being sexually harassed on the night shift. This is really important for all of you to understand that you may think that there isn't a lot you can do on those picket lines, but just the mere acknowledgement that you said, how can I help? Can I send an email? It makes a huge difference. In Spanish, los avergüenzas, like you can shame them. But nowadays, It used to be picketing out on the street. Nowadays, you got to get on Twitter and the Instagrams, not so much the Facebooks of the world, but still, I never thought that this is what our movements were going to become, right? And that it was incredibly fast how we get our news and how we share that with each other, but how we build movements across the board.
So how has technology changed your work and your game plan? So,
coming from Precious. I'm laughing because just a moment ago, she said, you need to build your social media.
No, if you try to find Olga Miranda using, so this is Darian. Darian is our marketing associate. Yes, he is getting Team Manny's together. He is giving us boot camps. He is like, we got to do the stories. We got to get the pictures, all these things, because like it or not, and this runs very counter to the ethos of Manny's. We do have, it feels like at this time you have to do that. So when we have events, Darian is like, okay, cool, I got it. And he does a deep dive and he's like, and he puts out like, here's some language you can use. Here's the new flyer we put together. It's got graphics, all these things. Canva's great. And so we were trying to find you and it took a minute. And I think it was like an Instagram page with maybe 30 images, but it's protected and all this other stuff. And I was just like, girl, you made it kind of hard. So I have a sense of how you will respond to my question based on personal lived experience. But I would love for you, because you're in the trenches and we are in the age of people thinking, oh, I did a hashtag, stay woke. I've done something, which is we're not even gonna talk about the black squares. That was a hot mess. I was like, I do not feel seen and validated because you put a black square on your Instagram, but you do you. So you tell us now, how's technology working for you?
I don't like telling any motherfucker what I'm doing, where I'm at, where I was, who I met. I don't like telling anyone. I'm very private in that sense. So please don't start looking for my shit because it's not going to be anything exciting.
You will not find it.
My Instagram is good for Olga. And my Twitter is Olga said what? And I really don't do a lot of it because I'm very private. And the only thing you'll see on there is cats, probably a picture or two of different things. But I like to live my life. And you're absolutely right. Now, what we're facing right now is this Amazon campaign and the fight over the city, right? And how will Amazon come in? Now, there's already been some mishaps from this administration, from the mayor's administration, and what arrangements were made without, according to her, her not having any knowledge. A lot of things can be corrected, but social media is a huge method on being able to call somebody out, but also do the right thing. And this is where all of you come in. We have a lot of folks that are living in communities, and it's not just one silo, District 10 in the Bayview. There's different shops that are trying to open up throughout the city. So it can't just be, we'll be union here and we'll acknowledge the union here. There has to be across the board recognition. I know all of you, those of you who scroll through your Instagram and your Facebook and your little TikTok, will see these commercials about Amazon. They give benefits to people from day one.
They're all over YouTube.
So they do all these wonderful things. And yes, is it a commodity that people have become huge fans of? Yeah, to some extent you get a lot faster, but just know everything, there's jobs that will be eliminated, whether it's at the supermarket. Every time you go to the supermarket and they have, you can check yourself out. Please don't go there, because for grocery workers, those are jobs that are being eliminated. Yes, you might like it that it's convenient, but just know there's a mother or a father or a kid trying to put himself through college that won't have a job to be able to get that. So no matter how many Amazons they build, they can't build without consumers. And so where you put your money is your business. But tonight, I'm going to ask you, be more responsible and ask the right questions about, do I really need to buy this here, or can I just wait to be able to move around and do the shopping myself? There's workers that are behind those cash registers, people that stock the supermarket, offices that need to be cleaned, warehouses that need to be cleaned. Those are jobs that can potentially be families that you don't even know that $15 thing that you got delivered, that could have been an hour and a half of somebody's shift that you took away. Does that make sense? And so I just ask that you think about how it is, you not just enjoy the convenience of it, but that you understand that convenience comes at the price of a worker that you've never met, but that could have had that job or those hours, sufficient hours. And it was great being able to know that they're trying to come into San Francisco, and being that we're in the city of St. Francis, right? This is the city that has given so much to so many, but more importantly, it's a city of opportunity, not just for the venture capitalists, but for workers in every industry that are union. This is a city that is a union town, but it's where we can show Amazon how they need to be able to perform and work with communities here in our city. If they weren't able to do it in New York, if they weren't able to do it anywhere else, this is the city that they can create a standard that could potentially go national. And it's consumers like yourselves that can help workers be able to have a better living, but also opportunity.
Excellent. Yes, yes. I had a few more questions, but I think I will wrap on that, that hopeful note. Thank you so much. And now turn it over to you all for questions. If you have one, just raise your hand high and all right.
Hi.
All right.
I'm the youngest of 14.
Oh,
What is happening?
did you close your eyes when you pray? I didn't, because my chicken would get stolen.
The reason I said that is because my father all my life. And then that was like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. And then, that was about 20% of the American public. Really, that's huge. And then we started to decline in 2019 or so. Now, I don't even know the word, but President Biden saying that he's going to be the most union representative president, or blah, 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 whatever he said. Where are you seeing a difference if that's the case? Because I would think numbers and who are able to pay their dues, so where is that?
You know what? It's an excellent question. There's a saying in Spanish, and I'm sorry, I became my mother today. So there's a saying in Spanish, que no hay mal que por bien no venga. There isn't a bad that won't bring a good, right? And so what the pandemic did was give us all a checked us and how we were living our lives, but also taking inventory of the quality that we wanted to have, right? But the great part about that is that it woke up workers from distinct industries and saying, fuck this, we deserve better, right? We got to organize. And it's really, I mean, come on, 10 years ago, everybody was Starbucks, a union there? Impossible. But now, from Buffalo to Detroit to Seattle to Washington, Arizona of all places, right? They're signing union cards, and the unions are there, but it's the workers that are leading those fights. And that's really incredible. And the other good part is that on a national level, unions approval rating is better than our mayor's. It's at 67%, right? I think it's a great thing, but we have to be able to also, this is why I say this. Today, our mayor could have said, we are a union town, and if Amazon wants to operate, they have to sit down with organized labor. Otherwise, they're not welcome here. And she missed that opportunity. And I want you all to know, I've been supportive of our mayor and all of her campaigns, but if we're friends, I'm gonna speak to you the truth, right? I'm not gonna blow smoke up anyone's ass. I've never done it. I don't get paid to do that. And even if she is my mayor, I also have to be able to tell her, this was an opportunity. If our president said everybody should have a right to organize and belong to a union, first time any sitting president in my generation has ever said that. A lot of them court unions when they're running and they want endorsements, right? But not one president has ever said, you have a right to belong to the union. And the changes that I have seen through the National Labor Relations Board, who he's put there, and also who is a Secretary of Labor, who is came out of former mayor of Boston, very pro-union, right? Marty, really incredible. But a lot of changes are being done. Whereas the National Labor Relations Board, if a worker went to file a complaint against an employer, your application or your grievance would get lost somewhere in the midst of it all with the previous administration and even past ones. This administration is doing an overhaul in how workers are treated, how workers have protections on the job and enforcement. Because you could write as many legislations as you want, but if you have no enforcement, then it's just as good as it didn't exist, right? And so the mal que por bien no venga, the good has been workers are waking up, they're quitting in mass. They're doing actions where like, you know what, asshole? You make these burgers, right? You clean your own damn places, and they're quitting. I mean, they're putting, just look at your TikTok. I don't put a lot of shit on there, but I will say I enjoy watching it. And if you just click on workers organizing, worker rights, you'll see a lot of young people, 17 years old, that are working at a Walmart. We deserve more. We have no benefits. They're exposing their employers. Isn't that incredible?
That's huge.
They are exposing their employers, and that's a good thing. I'm not saying that everything is perfect. I'm not going to try and sell you something. However, I will say that as you growing up in a union household, your quality of life was a lot better than that of your father's counterpart that did not belong to a union. You had guaranteed health insurance, a pension you can rely on, that you could, retire with dignity. You want to be able to bet that your kids are going to take care of you in your old age, but you have a pension in the union. You have health insurance. You have paid sick days. But more importantly, you don't have to go hand to fist to be able to ask somebody for a raise. It's guaranteed. And I will say this, as a woman of color, as a Chicana, for women, contracts we were treated as equals. Whereas out in the private sector, without a union, you had to negotiate what it is you got. And this is the difference. And this is why I always tell the women in our union, thank God that our babies were born inside union hospitals, thanks to the contract, right? But a lot of women that were organizing that don't belong to unions, and they finally are giving birth to their babies, you have no idea what not going broke because you had health insurance means to families, that you didn't have to go through that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yes. And yes.
You gave a really tangible example of how the pandemic shifted the office buildings in San Francisco, right? Going to work only a few days a week now, and how that's impacted your workforce. And I'm sure there's dozens, if not hundreds, of other examples. Like in that case, how are you working with those businesses? Because that's probably a reality that isn't going to change anytime soon, like you mentioned. We're not going back to normal. So how have you, like that example, how have you addressed that? Where some modifications you had to make?
When workers only come in 3 times a week into the office, it affects not just us as workers, but even the local economy, right? The cafeterias that were, and I say this because I know this at Salesforce, the cafeterias at Facebook, the cafeterias at Twitter, all of those are workers that also rely on that. And the local businesses, when those offices are closed, how they were really affected. Some doors never opened back up again, and it's a reality that we have to be able to say, okay, if we're now okay to take our mask off indoors, and some offices, what was it, on Friday last week, the mayor published, and we knew this was coming because we work with the mayor's office, a list of all of the tech companies and businesses in San Francisco that were going to be opening up. It was negotiated for 3 days. We're hoping that between now and the summer, it'll go to 4. And, the days will start to move, trickle back up again. It's a start. It's not perfect. But I assure you that the more people are in those offices, that means more workers get to come back to work. I don't have a magic wand, but I am a firm believer that we have to have all the stakeholders at the table so that folks can understand what that means, those 3 days mean to a worker that needs enough hours to get health coverage, qualify for health coverage. And so if we're talking about how do we continue to live in the endemic phase, it's going to mean everybody needs affordable healthcare, right? It can be universal healthcare, then we don't have to negotiate for health insurance in our contracts as long as we have it for free and it's universal. But we'll have to see that conversation for another day. That's another forum. Let's put that on the list. But I can tell you, it'll be a difficult conversation. But right now, the people holding the key to a lot of this is tech companies. Those are the largest employers right now in San Francisco. And I understand people want to have their 2 days a week and their cocktails at 3, but the really cold reality is that we are all intersected, and what you do affects me and affects my families. And so I'm hoping we'll come to something. There'll be more to this conversation, definitely. But a lot of the experts have weighed in. Other countries, they're back at their 5 days. They're back at their 5 days. And it's not to say that, we're more comfortable, but folks understand, that there's changes that we're going to have to live with. But it's hard being able to be told, you're just going to be a little poorer now before you were. And that's what we're kind of challenged with right now.
Yes.
Many.
So question that is very much of the moment, which is our other panelist is dealing with a towed car now and the police and broken windows on her way out of the Bay to move to a different city. And so I feel like there's something maybe poignant about that. And part of this was also a way to honor her on her way out. And Precious and I were talking earlier about what it means to have someone like Alicia Garza lead the Bay. And so I want to ask you about the ecosphere. Is that the word for it?
Ecosystem.
The ecosystem for activism, for organizing, and for disruption, and for fighting the good fights in the Bay, and where you see things moving, and you're taking a temperature of the Bay, which has for so long been a crucible of social movements, and how you see the future.
You know what? Alicia's reality is every one of ours reality. Our offices got broken into 5 times last year. Our offices. So they took a lot of Dell, screens that were from like 1998. It's all right. We are all desperate. We're all desperate. And the way that I explain to our members is that some folks are having it a lot harder than we are. And unfortunately, Alicia leaving the Bay is a huge blow to all of us that have an incredible amount of respect for her and her contributions. I wish we could be able to multiply her by 100 so that we'd have a whole army of Alicias. But a lot of folks have had to leave because their paths are somewhere else where they need to be. And I've always been a firm believer of that. She has contributed so much to every one of us, whether you were there on the streets, whether you were there clamoring, where you heard her online speaking at so many different functions, or you felt the breath of the change that was coming, right? And that was needed. It hasn't healed all of us, but we are on a path. And I know that wherever she is, that, you know, there'll be more that will be needed from her. And right now we have been served and gotten what we needed from her now. And I know that wherever she in, whatever city she decides to call home, where she's going, right, is one that will be damn well served by having her and saying, that's my neighbor. She's in our community, but she's a force. She's an incredible force. And as far as the break-ins, today I heard that for every car break-in, there'll be a new ambassador, a city ambassador, so that we can welcome folks back. You know, when you grow up in the hood, there's nothing that's a shocker, right? And if you work in the Tenderloin or live in the Tenderloin, then nothing really fades you, right? Nothing really fades you. But I can say this, we have a lot of work ahead of us, but the more we are decisive in telling our friends, our neighbors to come and visit, the more opportunities of work that a hotel worker that's been sitting on the bench for 2 years will have an opportunity to clean those rooms so that they can have enough hours. There isn't just one person that can carry movements. It's all of us. It's in our nature. And the fact that you guys are here on a Wednesday night, speaking to my crazy ass and beautiful Precious here, says there's so much commitment on what change can we be involved with. And I hope that when you walk away tonight, that you walk away with more than just a BMW spoke to you. You know, does everybody know what that means? It's a big Mexican woman. But that you understood, right, the qualities that we all bring to the table, and that you are we're all cogs in being able to change how we turn that corner as a city, how we turn that, I mean, Manny on Sunday mornings is picking up trash in the Mission, right? Can we all give him a round of applause? You know, not everybody has the girth to do that. This brother does, you know, he does. But it's the beauty that we find even in the roughest of spots to be able to build upon that. And as a daughter of a single mother, I can tell you that we build on our pain and how we revitalize our spirits to move forward. Because when you are poor, you don't have time to sit in that pain. You got to keep moving. You have to keep moving. And that's what a lot of our families have done. And now we're dealing with the aftermath of how all of these benefits are done. I no longer have, you know, any unemployment. I don't have health insurance. I don't know how I'm going to make it tomorrow. But I can assure you that when you're in that, you feel down in that luck. The only thing that you got going for you is your girth to keep moving forward. And we're not done yet. So I ask all of you to please, you know, make eye contact with your custodians in the building, acknowledge your neighbors, but more importantly, ask the right questions about how folks are being treated on the job. And everybody that serves you, whether it's your coffee shop, it's the cook in the back, just acknowledge and say thank you, because people showed up for you to serve you. And understand that there are no entitlements here. Labor movement, women's movement, we are all just as vulnerable, and we speak our truths in our own ways. But what you really unites is the kind of community that we want to have. I want my son to understand that when he graduates high school, he'll have an opportunity. He will have an opportunity, even with his disabilities, that my son will know that he has options. Even if he's a brown boy, even if he's Latinx, but that he understands there are opportunities and that there isn't just one path to climb that mountain. Does that make sense?
Everyone, Olga Miranda.
Thank you. Now somebody said something about cake.
Yes. One more.
And to all of you, it's not just a damn month or a day. It's a whole life for all the women in this room. Happy International Women's Year after year after year after year. To all of you, to all of you.
Oh,
This is Tartine